After a short visit to Florida to canoe the Ocklawaha River, our crew didn't care to just travel through the night, and Charleston, South Carolina just seemed like a great place for a layover. So we arrived in the night. If you don't set up a tent at night every now and then, are you really living? Having some history buffs among us, we dropped into the McLeod Plantation for a guided tour the next morning. Started in the early 1800s, the plantation was bought secondhand by Mr. McLeod, who started growing cotton. The local variety and combination of using seaweed remnant as fertilizer made incredibly tall and productive plants in the very lucrative business. One of the expenditures of any business, especially in that time period, was labor. And, if you haven't guessed already, the plantation was home for many enslaved Africans from up and down the west coast of Africa. They lived close enough to form their own distinct culture and even language called Gullah. Most American colonies had plantations very spread out, so that this specifically was a South Carolina phenomenon. The Gullah people here lived in a row of tiny cottages on the plantation, as many as 14 in a house, and some even lived there only a few decades ago. At the end of the Civil War, a federal program was created to distribute land to freed families. In a world where living off the land was really a thing, I can only imagine how huge this must have been, as I, myself, am a gardener.
Why do they want to do that?
A mere 5 years later, many of the whites had bought or otherwise reacquired much of the land, though some communities of freed men and women were established. Many of these are still around in some form. I do remember seeing a documentary a few years ago about the Gullah Geechee in recent years and how much of these communities were being sold to real estate developers, especially as people have moved away. Sometimes I walk through forests and wonder if they can tell you stories. Like these particular rows of trees. They've seen a lot of things over the years. They've seen families come together and families be split up, not by their choice. If you cut one open, their rings will tell a story of the landscape. of how the sun shone and if there were fires and all sorts of things. But I wonder what else they could tell. These trees surely saw a pivotal time and change in the society and culture of a country. How would they share it?
Charleston every once in a while, but we've never been here. Heard a lot of good things about it, so it's good to know. Yeah.
This particular tree was called the McLeod oak and is believed to be about 600 years old. I wonder what stories it could tell.
Much thicker, much greener, and about another foot taller about a month and a half ago. We still find some spots on it.
There's no way I can recap all of the history of this place, so consider a visit and always seek to learn more about our history, the good and the horrible, especially as it is tossed around in current debates. For more information, visit their website and most importantly, drop by for a tour, because there are surely many details of the stories I've left out or not even heard of.